This recording contains the opinions and thoughts of certain independent Salesforce members. The information shared with you by these individuals are their own ideas and strategies regarding the cultivation of a successful independent Mary Kay business. The independent Salesforce members hope that you find something in this recording to inspire you and to help you succeed in your own independent Mary Kay business. Naturally, your personal results may vary depending on the time and effort you choose to invest in your Mary Kay business. As with any business opportunity, various factors may affect the financial results that are achieved in your Mary Kay business. Therefore, there are no guarantees regarding same.
Earning the circles of achievement and circles of excellence are incredible accomplishments and goals that all independent sales directors should strive for. However, it is important to realize that it is just as important to build leaders from your unit, especially if you have a goal to become an independent national sales director. In this CD by Independent Elite Executive National Sales Director Emeritus Barbara Sunden, you will hear what Barbara feels the lifeblood of this business truly is as she explains that when you focus on building leaders, the production will follow.
I believe that building this company is such a joy. Building people is such an incredible opportunity. And Mary Kay designed her company around a fantastic career path. And somewhere along the way, we got a little confused. And what we started to do was put more emphasis on being $1 million director. I don't know if it was because they give you robes. You have that girlfriend's party. I don't know. And it's a wonderful accomplishment. But I want to start off this class by saying, if you build people, production will follow. If you build people, production will follow. And if you are just after production, well, we all know that July 1 of every year, then you're at zero again, aren't you? And you can get very tired after a long time of just building a unit that is producing, but nobody is going up the career path. And I don't think you've really served your position well. Someone said a leader is someone who knows where he is or she is going and is able to take others with them. That's the crux of what Mary Kay created. You know, Mary Kay said, as directors and nationals, we grow the company. We grow the company through personally team building, unit team building, and building directors. So I took that on when I first met Mary Kay, and she talked about her company, and I came to the game when the company was 9 years old, so I'd missed a lot of those pioneering stories. But I did catch a few. Mary Kay realized one day that she couldn't be everywhere. She could only be in one place, so she designed the position of director because she knew that she couldn't reach as many people on her own. Molly Morrow, who is now an emeritus, had 3 team members. And Mary Kay knew she was really doing a solid business personally and that she had the trust in her that she was going to build a strong unit. She said to Molly, we need a director in your city. So we're going to promote you to director with 3 people. Because she knew that she had great leadership skills and that she knew that Molly knew how to personally do the business. And so then, of course, I'm sure Mary Kay sat down and put out a plan for her of where to be in the next month, 2 months, whatever. And Molly went on to be a very strong national sales director, strong national sales director. So just from that little story, would you agree that Mary Kay's focus was on directors, building directors? Mary Kay taught us work with what you have and then go from there. Work with what you have and then go from there. I'm a Mary Kay sales director, and I must be expected to develop offspring. So my first year out, I just really wanted to be an executive. I wanted to have at least 5 offspring. So I decided to work with my people. I had a small unit, but that didn't matter. And someone had said to me once, you know, you really shouldn't develop a director until you have 150 people in your unit base. And I thought, well, what if the key person shows up before I have 150 people? Do I ignore her? So then I became really in tune to looking at people, watching them, and realized that this business is about behavior, watching people's behavior, and then working with them so that they can enhance the behavior, maybe sometimes modify it, so that they can be a better people person. And so I knew I had to start somewhere, so I looked at this unit and I said, well, I better look for the people to work with. And I was always told, you always work with 5 key people. Always work with 5 key people. And so I started to think about working with these key people and what would be the best way to work with someone. You know, don't we all, I don't care if we admit it or not, when something comes up, whether it's a suggestion to move up or to earn a contest or whatever, don't you weigh it out by what's in it for me? What's in it for me? So I couldn't talk to my whole unit about, isn't it exciting you can become a director? I had to select the people and have this discussion one-on-one. So today we're going to talk about one-on-one. You don't try to move the whole group at once. You select the key people and you work with them one-on-one because your conversation with each of them is going to be customized for what their needs are. To develop people, we are going to be working one-on-one and knowing where you're going. I don't want to forget the most important point. We're not going to focus on production. Do you know how you do the $1 million? You develop 10 first-line directors. You put the people first, the production follows. So with whatever you're doing, you may be in a habit of just doing your business one way, and maybe today's the day that you think a new thought. Maybe when you go home, you are going to approach your business in a different way. And it might be scary to you because all you knew was, how to work with those people when they came in to get them started. And the major part of maybe even your income was how you set them up to inventory their business. Your main focus is how many new people are coming into the unit? How many reds do I have? Looking at the career path. How many people am I working with to move up? And we're going to talk about working with 5 key people. Someone said a leader is someone who knows where he or she is going and is able to take others with them. Strangely enough, however, they glance over their shoulder one day and there's a parade going on and they're walking out in front of it. Leaders teach, they motivate, and they care. John Maxwell says and defines leadership as influence. And Mary Kay says the great leaders lead 3 ways: by example, example, and example. She always told us that people would do what we were doing. If we were out there selling product, conducting skincare classes or parties, and personally team building, then the unit would do the same. We were expected to take full responsibility for our results. Mary Kay set up a high standard of excellence at every level. She personally held 3 classes a day when she started the company. And when I started, we had to do a perfect start. I remember Mary Kay saying, if you want to turn your business around, then you can certainly get out there by either getting a gold medal or doing 10 classes. It all starts with you. And it does all start with you. And I think 2 areas that we as directors really need to jump in and look at would be personally team building. A unit within a unit. When I talk to people about finding 5 key people in a unit, very often they say, I don't think I have them. Take personal responsibility. What would your step be? Your first step when you go home, if you don't think you have 5 key people, you go home and you get a gold medal. When I first started as a sales director, my unit didn't do production the first month. But you know what? I didn't look at that. I looked at where I wanted to go, and I wanted to be a national sales director. And so what did I do? I team built 7 personal people that month. They didn't place their orders. That's why we didn't do any production. But the next month they did. And from those 7 personal people that I brought into this company, I have tracked it back to I today have 4 national sales directors. If you take the personal responsibility of feeding, energizing, stocking your unit with new blood, anything that you want to do in Mary Kay will work. So often we keep talking to the same old people. The same old people. You've got to get a whole new, fresh look on your unit. And I think what's kept me alive and reinventing myself is that I keep going divide, multiply. I keep going to new areas to start fresh with new people. So I divide out from where I am and build it up again. You've probably heard it, the philosophical view on a dead horse. The tribal wisdom of the Dakota Indians passed on from generation to generation. And it says that when you discover that you're riding a dead horse, the best strategy is to dismount and get a different horse. However, sometimes in Mary Kay, we have our short dead horse prospect list who are not interested, who really may not even be interested in doing Mary Kay or moving up to director, but we just stay with them. And it takes advanced strategies such as, number 1, thinking that maybe if you buy a stronger whip, that dead horse will move. Number 2, maybe you're ignoring the situation, but you continue riding that dead horse. Making more phone calls and leaving more messages. Enticing the dead horse to come to the meetings again, thinking it will inspire the dead horse to rise from the dead. Lowering the standards so the dead horse can be included. Reclassifying the dead horse as living impaired. Going to company events looking for the magical things that will make the dead horse rise again. Sometimes we even harass several dead horses at the same time to increase speed. Or we might be providing additional information to increase the dead horse's chances of rising from the dead. Or we might just be thinking it's not really a dead horse. It's kind of like ha ha ha, tongue-in-cheek. But you know what? I watch it over and over again. As I said before, this business is behavioral. So you have to watch the behavior. I had a meeting last night in my suite. As a national, I still have a unit. No great shakes for production. I'm not after that. I'm looking for the next director. That's all I'm looking for in my unit is the next director. So I had 4 people that came, and I really didn't know 3 of the 4. I really hadn't had a chance to really meet them. And I just was sitting, and I said, okay, when you left home, you got on the plane, and you came to seminar, what were you thinking? After today, yesterday, what are you thinking now? We went around a little circle, and they shared with me. At first, of course, they bring all their excuses with them. But then when the magic of Mary Kay touches them, then you can see how far they want to go. And I always want to know from people, how far would you be willing to go? How far can you dream? How big can it be for you? And I just said to them, if you are serious about this, I know we can work out a plan together. And I will be willing to work with you. But if you're not serious about this, I'm going to be very honest with you. I will not run with you. And I think you need to do that. I think you need to visit with people. So in working with people, first you look for who are your key people. How do you identify them? I look for people who are energized and excited about knowing the next step. I look for people who show up. No excuses. I look for people that other people like. I really do look for the personalities of D's and I's. And maybe that sounds terrible, and I don't mean to be stepping on anybody's toes that might have the other personality profile going on, an S or a C. But I find that the I personality is very outgoing, likes people, is motivated to have recognition, gets things done quickly. And the D personality is somebody that is a decision maker, doesn't ever really wonder if they know anything. They actually would prefer to create the whole new system, and they get the job done. They're a bottom line people. So I really want to work with people who are moving fast. Now, if you have not produced an offspring in a while, and you haven't created your DIQ machine, which is your objective, how many DIQs do you have coming out of your unit on a continual basis? If you haven't done that, if you've kind of been sort of in a period of, nobody popping out of your unit or only doing one at a time, then you need to look for the D's and the I's because they move fast. Of course, you're going to be open to anyone that really wants to do it and is willing to do it and is teachable and to the position. But you really want to create momentum. You work with those people. I set the bar high. I don't expect somebody to go through DIQ in 4 months. Mary Kay never talked about 4 months. I think it was just sort of like an insurance policy just in case they needed it. But now it's become the norm. So I talk to people about moving quickly. So if I'm talking to people that like to move quickly, they can buy into it. And a D and an I, you know that. They like to move quickly. Know the difference between being a mentor, a role model, and a coach. A role model is someone that people really don't know and aren't that really engaged in the business with them, but they'd like to be like them. A mentor helps you to identify your plan. Maybe you're plugged into somebody's mentoring call once a week, but you're hearing instruction and it's helping you to identify your plan, or maybe you have a chance to sit down with someone for a brief moment or periodically, but they're just mentoring. You need to, of course, be a role model, but that's not going to move people. And you can't even just take it as far as being a mentor. You've got to become a coach. You have to become a coach. Now, let's just think about a coach when you visualize. Even if you don't really like sports, I'm sure we've all been involved with the sports, when we get to the Super Bowl or the World Series or whatever, kind of you tune in, you can't help doing it. Where are those coaches? Are they on the field? No. Where are they? Usually on the sideline screaming. They encourage you to scream, but they're usually on the sidelines screaming because they have selected the players. They have worked out a plan and a strategy. They have practiced with these people, and now they're out there, and they're hoping that they perform. And but they're on there, and they're knowing who to pull out, who to put in. So that would be like taking somebody that you've selected as a key person that's not working. You would take her out of this, put her on the bench, and put a new player in. Those are going to be personally either team building or there's somebody else's team building in your unit. So you're going to be willing to change off some of the players because you're watching the behavior, the performance, the game. The game stays the same, the players change. That is kind of the mentality you have to have. Don't stay with people who aren't performing to their best or performing to enhance the game the best because they just don't want to do it at that moment. Don't stay with them. Kind of put them on the back burner. You're the coach, and a coach is in contact with his players. And I really believe that my son is a coach, and I watch him, and he always takes his teams to the championship. I must tell you that. He really does. But he gets in there, and he watches when they do the tryouts and whatnot. He watches them, and he said to me once when I was going to a leadership conference, Mom, tell every director that they have to play the game as if they were a rookie. I looked at him like, why would they do that? He said, because your rookies, your new people, are excited and want to prove themselves. So when you're working with your key people, make sure you're getting somebody that is excited and wants to prove themselves. So I watch him. He gets the team, he looks for different talents in his people, and then he coaches them accordingly. He works with them. Maybe he has to build a strength in certain areas. And I do that with people. I select people, and I usually work with 5. And it's one-on-one. I don't group them together. They're all so different. So I'm now plugged in to getting involved with them on a business relationship. And so I plan to be talking to these people 3 to 5 times a week. And when I say talking to them, maybe I'm not going to see them every day, but if they're local, I'm going to make sure I see them sometime during the week. But if they're out of town, of course, it's going to be by phone calls. It's not by email. It's not by conference calls. I do not like conference calls. They serve a purpose, but they won't move anyone. And I think so many of us rely so much on conference calls. I hear so many directors and nationals, I have my Sunday call, and I have my Monday morning call, and I get people on the phone at 6 o'clock. So I'll promise you this. If you ever set up a program and told me that the leadership program was going to be at 6 o'clock in the morning, I would not be there. We have to make this easy. We have to make this comfortable. It's a relationship. We have to make it where it's a relationship where you don't feel like you're being put under scrutiny. You don't feel like you're being put in a game of elimination. If you don't show up or do this or whatever, you're gone. Make it like a friendship. I'm taking you where you are, but I can see where you can go, and together we're going to do this. That's what leadership is. So I don't like conference calls. If you want to do them, but don't do them as your primary means of communication. It's a one-way street. We want to be interacting. I want to be working with my person so that I can explain, first of all, the position, and then I want to be her point of accountability. I want her to know that I am there monitoring what she's doing. I'm not going to criticize it, but I'm there monitoring it. So you're going to be the coach, but the first thing I would do in selecting key people is I would select them and then I would meet with them. And very often I like to meet with them and their significant other, whether they come to the meeting and then we go for coffee, or maybe they come early and we meet for coffee, or maybe we'll go for dinner. You decide how you want to set it up. But I want to hear them talk. Then I want to paint the picture of Mary Kay with them and see how they respond. And then after that initial conversation, if I feel like they're really on board, that they're really serious about it, they're excited about it, then I'll work out a plan. And my plan always starts with the key person, the contender for DIQ, has to book a perfect start. That is always my first challenge. And a perfect start is not the perfect start of today. The perfect start is the perfect start that Mary Kay had us do under her qualifications. You had to book 8 to hold 5, and it was over a 2-week period, and they were parties, they weren't facials. And so I make sure that they have that in place. And if they don't have that in place, then we don't move on. But that's the first challenge, because they're going to need those appointments, not only to meet new people, but they're going to need that arena when they come in. So that's the first step. Then the second step is we most definitely select a date. I select a date with them. We don't just start this without a date. We're not just working together to see if it's going to work. We're working toward DIQ. So I would say that if you're sitting down to work with someone, you can't put the date beyond 60 days to 90 days. It should really be 30 to 60 days that you're telling her. We're looking at our DIQs who need just a small team of people and giving them like 3 months just to get it ready. 30 days, 60 days if they need it to get them to DIQ and then through DIQ and 2. I would then tell them to practice. So let's set up 3 to 5 people to book appointments with some people that you know. They can be customers or friends or whatever. And then your director is going to come in and present the marketing plan so you can observe it. She booked a perfect start, then she books her practice appointments with you. And by doing those practice appointments, I know that if you do, and you can even call it massive action if you want. Massive action is having her book 5 to 8 appointments back to back to back to back, not all together. And you go with her and you do the appointments and you'll close people. Why I like to do that up front real fast is that you have to get people winning before they become frustrated. And if you put someone in a relationship with you where the objective is for her to become a DIQ and you leave her on her own to get those recruits, she could become so frustrated that she's just going to die off. Get them winning before they become frustrated. And I know that if I do either the practice appointments, 3 to 5, or the massive action 5 to 8 appointments with this person, I'm going to walk away with having closed 3 to 5 people for her. She's either going to be, a star recruiter or team leader. I'm not going to do her work for her forever, but I know that if I get her to that point, now what's in it for me? A lot, right? We know that when people start team building, they become more connected with the business and they very often do not leave. So I get her to that position and then I encourage her to continue on her recruiting. So when I'm talking to her 3 to 5 times a week, our conversation is always centered around her list of people, how many she has on her team currently, and what her prospects look like. And you do this through questions. When you're talking to people, I know you have the answers, but you want to help them become strong problem solvers. You want to help them to know how to identify what their next steps should be. If you keep telling them, I promise you, they're probably not even listening. They're to a point where, oh yeah, okay, I know, I have to book more, and they're like turning you off. But if you're asking them questions, something happens to your body when people ask you questions. There is just a complete change in your body and the endorphins kick in. If right now, if I were asking you questions, you wouldn't be like, looking at your phone or doodling on your page because you wouldn't want to be caught with, oh my God, I wasn't paying attention. So you kind of like put yourself in a state of awareness. Well, that's where you want people to be when you're on the phone with them. And, on the phone and having a nice conversation. And then you ask them, okay, well, Mary, what's going on? I don't have your papers in front of me, so let's just look at your group. Tell me, how many do you have on your team? Now, you know that she knows that you have that information, but if you just say, I don't have it in front of me, you want her to think it, to voice it, to then own it. You want to make sure they know what's happening. They have to own that DIQ group. The director does not own the responsibility of that pre-DIQ group or that DIQ group. The people have to own it. So I might just say, Mary, okay, tell me, give me a rundown. How many are on your team right now? Oh, I have 3. Great. We're really moving. This is happening. A little encouragement, a little cheering on. Tell me about them. Name them for me. Tell me who they are and tell me about them. And then I ask a little bit about them. I want her really paying attention to who she has on that team. I know that so many times we ask people, what's going on, in your business? Why don't you grow? Oh, well, I have a few recruits. It's like, 4, but, really 2 aren't active. And they're telling this horrible story, right? We didn't coach them properly to own it. So when they're on the phone, she has 3, and then she has to tell me about all of them. If she says, well, I have Sue. Sue's doing nothing. Your questions then would be, well, what do you think would be the best next step for Sue? Or where is Sue that you're saying she's doing nothing? Is she free to do some skincare classes? Yeah, she is. Well, do you think it would be helpful if you and Sue got together and could have a little booking time? You might have to take it that far back where they're being responsible to helping people, coaching people into a booking situation. You know, so many times in Mary Kay today, we're seeing people, sign the agreement and they'll watch her and hope she does it. Back in the day, I brought you in. I'm responsible for you. I'm going to tell you how. I'm going to show you how. And then I'm going to let you show me how. But I have to first tell you how. And then I have to first be the example of how. And a lot of times we're skipping those first two steps. But I think you have to get there with them, shoulder to shoulder. I don't care if they come to your home or if you go to their home. But you know what? I do a lot of this when I travel. And that's why the divide and multiply. That's why I can go out to any area and build. Because after I know that she's got her skincare classes together and how to do that, then I might just go back and say, okay, bring a list of names. And I've done this in hotel lobbies where it's been quiet. We find a little corner and she has her cell phone and we have the list of names. And if it's for booking, I help her book. And if it's for setting up those appointments for the practice, I do that. And I make the first call. And then I say, okay, now you heard what I just said. You make the second call. And then I make the third call so she can hear it again. And then she makes the next call. And we usually get appointments set up and bookings. But it walks her through it so that when I leave, she is equipped to carry on. And so when I'm talking to my DIQ on that list, well, what do you think would be the best next step for Sue to get her holding parties? Well, I don't know. Well, do you think if you set up some time where you could do some booking together, that would help? Now, I'm not telling her, am I? I'm suggesting it through a question. I'm getting permission for her to really hear me and accept it. Oh, I think that would work. Well, when do you think you can get together with Sue to set that up? I am expecting from her. I am her point of accountability. Oh, I don't know. Well, you know what? Do you think if you called her today, could you fit that into your calendar today? Or do you think you'll get to her tomorrow? I am relentless. My questions narrow it right down to get her to know what to do and then get her to do it. I'm her coach. Coaches help people implement the plan. That's what you are doing. You're helping her to implement the plan. Mentoring is just giving her ideas. Giving her ideas. And then she's got her head full of all kinds of crazy ideas. Okay, so then I'd go down and I'd say, okay, that was Sue. She has 3 people. Tell me about Jane. Jane's situation might be totally different. But whatever the situation is, you hear it out, and then for what she answers, you help her through a question to take that person to the next step. And then after we talk about, well, you've got 3 people, and I'm so excited, but we've got to get more because we want to do this DIQ by July 1 or whatever, August 1 or whatever the next month is. So tell me, who else are you talking to? Oh, I have 5 other people. That is not acceptable. She's going to hide behind, I have 5 other people forever. And that month's going to go by, the next month's going to go by, the next month. Oh, great, 5 people. Who are they? Name them for me. Point of accountability. You are her coach. This is a major business. Don't let things just kind of, fall through the cracks. And it takes time. These calls take time. And these calls don't click in until you've done them with them maybe 3 or 4 times. And by the next week, they start getting it and they start reporting. Oh, I've got 5 more people and I can't wait to tell you about them. So then you start, okay, who are they? Name them. Okay, so I'm working with Vanessa. Tell me about Vanessa. Oh, I met her at a skincare class last week. She is terrific. Oh, okay, what's your plan to get together with her? Well, I'm going to give her a call and invite her to the meeting next week. Well, how do you think it would work if you called her and just got together with her for coffee? Tell her you couldn't get her off your mind. She was just so impressive, blah, blah, blah. And so you make suggestions to get her in the now instead of getting her over here. Oh, next person is Paula. Oh, I talked to Paula. I told her everything. I still haven't gotten an answer. Well, how close do you think you are to closing her? Oh, well, I'm just waiting to hear from her. Okay. How would she respond if you gave her a quick call and said, Paul, I've been thinking about you since we were together, and I'd certainly love to come over and finalize things so that we can get you ready. What would it take for you to give her a call today? Always questions. You know how to take them the next step, however you would take them to the next step. People let too many days go in between their follow-up. They go from one end of the week to the other end of the week without closing or following up or setting up the next team person. And then you have people waiting for a next sales meeting or whatever. You've got to teach people to be able to team build, relate, interact with people every day. And if they know that you're going to call them, then they're going to start to become more responsible. Now, you don't call them the same time every day. And you don't call them like, okay, here we are. Give me the answers. It's, hi, how are you? I just wanted to see what you're doing, Maria. I know you're building your team, and I'm getting so excited. What's going on? You have to be disciplined. And you should be working with 5 people. Inspect what you expect. You are the leader. You are their coach. You are giving them hope. People are looking for 3 things from their directors: trust, guidance, and hope. Trust is what you have to work the relationship on. The first thing I ever do with someone is try to build a relationship. I want them to know they can trust me and trust my word. The second thing is the plan. Give them guidance. There is such a feeling of security when a person has a plan. And then I guide them through it. And the third thing is hope. The encouragement, the vision. Wow, I can't wait for you. You are the coach. You're going to work with your 5 key people. You're going to be willing to put them on the back burner if they're not working. I was always taught you give 3 strikes and they're out. Now, they don't know that. But if they're not following up to whatever you have them working on, you just redirect it, re-challenge them. And if they don't do it that time, you do it a 3rd time. Move on to someone new if that isn't working. Okay? Hope is the ingredient of success, and so you always have to be talking about a vision, their vision for how it's going to impact their lives. You have to know the numbers too. I think a director, a unit should be developing 3 offspring a year, minimum. And so you kind of have to go into this year knowing that you're going to develop at least 3 this year. You have to set the momentum up. It's just not going to happen. So my plan for setting up the momentum was that I knew I had to get 3 DIQs in the system back to back, like 1 a month for 3 months. You get a DIQ in 1 a month for 3 months, and you make sure that they get through it. So you're going to work with them. You're going to run with them if you have to run with them. Then all of a sudden, it's like the norm in your unit to be a DIQ. And then all of a sudden, people come in, and that's their objective. After yesterday's national debut, when you talk to people, when you ask them, what would they like to do? What are they saying? I want to be a national. There were 4 women on that stage that had great stories, that were the example. I mean, they were all so different. It was multiples that they saw. I mean, if they saw 1, they would be inspired. But I don't know if they would be enrolling in the process. There were 4. So what did it look like, especially for someone new coming to seminar? It's the norm. So you have to create that in your unit. You can't have just the once in a while trophy DIQ. And you can't have the DIQ that is the revolving door DIQ. You know, she's in and then she's out and then she's back in again. And she might even do it a couple spins around. Because then what is that message to your unit? Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard. So people just stop even thinking DIQ. And I don't care how great you are, and don't care how wonderful you make your position look. The DIQs are the peer group. You're not part of that peer group. They're checking the peer group out. The peer group dictates the performance of the entire unit. They dictate the behavior of the unit. So you have to be the master. You set up the group dynamics. The numbers of offspring you have are going to determine the momentum of where you are towards national. You know, having 3 DIQs within the unit creates the momentum for the unit. So the number of directors that you have right now is either creating momentum or it's slowing you down. You can't play small in this company. Have you figured that out already? I know you have. It's easier to run a large unit, isn't it, than a small unit? Is it true? It's easier to run your offspring business towards national with more offspring than it is with a few. 8 or more, you're in the momentum zone. When you have 5 or 6 or less first-line offspring, you're dealing with personalities. And you're in this zone of who likes you, who doesn't, who gets it, who isn't. Da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's hard to be a leader of leaders when you have those numbers. So you have to take a quantum leap right now. And that quantum leap is go home and select your 5 key people. If you don't have them, you go get your gold medal. No excuses. Take responsibility. You get your gold medal. It's not going to hurt. But you work with those 5 key people, the way I said, first meet with them. The first challenge they have is the perfect start. The second thing you're going to do with them is start your phone calls, your list. You're going to ask questions. You're going to run with them to do your practice appointments or your massive action. And you're going to work with them. That's how to get it started. And you're going to set it up so that you have 3 people entering DIQ. Boom, boom, boom. Month 1, month 2, month 3. Put your first one in, let's just say August, then you'd have one for September, and then one for October. Because that's going to create the momentum. And you're going to make sure that these 3 people make it. Now, I then would make sure that the 3 people I put in were people who really, really wanted it, were really capable of getting it done. That's where I came in with the selection of the personality profile of D's and I's, because they know a lot of people, they love to talk to people, and they like to get the job done. I would even save the debuts. I wouldn't debut them separately. It's the only time I'd bring them together. If they all lived in the same area, I'd do their debut one big event. It would be just like yesterday, being in that auditorium, seeing 4 national sales directors debut. A new person coming in has no clue that that is not the norm. Are you with me? You have to stage it. You have to create it. You have to know your numbers. I think the pivotal position in all of Mary Kay is senior director. This is going to be your aim now. You can be building that director and then making sure she has some red jackets and help her select the person that she's going to have debut right after her. Because if you have your first line, most of them are senior, you're backed up for life. You're backed up for life. When I went national, I had a lot of first line, and most of them were seniors. And so even when people decided for whatever reason that maybe Mary Kay wasn't going to be their life commitment, and they left to illness, some people to disinterest, some people to lack of ability. But I didn't worry about that because the game stays the same and the players change. Strategy, strategy, strategy. To back up people, they decide they're going to leave. What happens? They go and somebody moves up. I am not at the mercy of their decision. Senior is important, so you're going to look at that. How many seniors? All right, that's important. That'll keep you in business, that will keep you competitive, and that will keep your income up. And those are the things you're interested in. The rest of it's fun, and it will come on its own, but your focus needs to be on building your business, your national area. You're building it. So if you want to get the most from it, you want to make sure that you're strong on that first line, that first line has seniors. I've lost directors, but I haven't lost momentum because I looked at the things that were important. People building. So now when you're working with people, you might want to get their team together and do something with their team. Make sure they have a team name. That sounds so silly, but it's a team identity. Make sure that their team members know you. And maybe you can sit down and do a little special event with them. You want to work with the girl that's going into DIQ and do special things with her to help her. Maybe customer appreciation, and she gets her customers together. And you go in and do a little before and after look, and then you do the marketing plan. But you want to get to the people she's working with, whether they're prospects or they're her team members. You want to ask her in one of your conversations when she's talking about people, who on your team do you think is ready to step up to the red jacket level? And then you can help her with that person. You can help her do what she needs to do. She might have to do massive action with that new person. So you're teaching her how to be a leader, and you're teaching her how to build not only her personal team, but how to teach her team members to build their personal team. Because going through DIQ, you want her to have at least 2 other star recruiters so that when she debuts, there's that momentum going with her. And you do that by, just getting those people in your space. You need to divide your groups out and then get to your person wherever you're moving her. If it's one of your offspring and you're moving her to senior, then you work with her key people. If it's your pre-DIQ, and you want to move her into DIQ and through DIQ, you meet with her consultants. You make them feel special. And I give them challenges. I give the DIQ a challenge to get finished in 2 months. And it's a pretty nice challenge. I usually just find, something fun and wonderful that they can be a part of. And I ask her to choose her key people from her DIQ team and break down what they need. How much more do you need in production for the whole DIQ accomplishment. How many more team members do you need? So if she has selected 3 key people to work with her, I call it the core team, and herself, that's 4 people divided into whatever the balance of the production is, divided into whatever the number of recruits is, and they have to agree to be a part of it. You know, divide, multiply, many hands make light work. They usually get through in that second month. And I want people to get through in that second month. And especially as you're getting close to national, you want people crossing that deadline. I promise you, if you change your focus to building people and taking them up the career path, everyone in your unit, you just have to, at the end of the month, you have to take your print out and say, who can I move to the next step? Who can I move to the next step? Who can I move to the next? You know, everything in your unit will change. Production will follow it. You will have your best production year because you have everybody working for their benefit, not for yours. If you can think of right now 5 key people, jot their names down, and you phone them. You say, I'm being groomed for national. And I was just asked to write down the names of my next leaders, and your name came to mind. If you will use that script, and if you will go out and phone the people with that script and say to them, we need to get together. Can we book an appointment now? And you set it up now. And you do what I said when you're working with key people. You know, if there's a significant other, you meet with them and you talk about the big picture. If they're with you, you just grab them, take them to the side and say, oh my goodness, you've been on my mind. I'm being groomed for national. And your name came up because they asked me who my next leaders are. And I just have to give you a hug and just tell you, we're putting this together. How does that sound? All right, are you with me on this? If you phone someone and you put the importance of this and their name came up, it's amazing what they're going to do. I think the most important thing is it's not about you. It's about them. How many people that you can help to step up to realize their talents and their abilities, it's about them. And it's so very important, working one-on-one. Don't waste your time trying to get all people together and then try to move them in a lump. It's not going to work. And don't try to get 100% from everybody all the time. You know, Mary Kay said that it's 1/3, and it never changes. 1/3 of the national sales directors, are in a suit. 1/3 are moving along, and 1/3 are breaking records. Are you noticing that? It's always 1/3. It's always 1/3 of your unit. So if you're developing your national area, be safe with the numbers. That, you know, you have enough so that when you do your 1/3, it's a good representation. And truly know those numbers. I think that if you want to be competitive as a national sales director, don't ever let your numbers go below 10. If you want to really be out there and getting all the goodies and whatnot, go to 15. If you want to be one of the, high flyers, have 20. And I'm talking first line. That's all you have to worry about is first line. First line. You look for the key people. You look for the leaders. Look for the leaders. They walk differently. They talk differently. They think differently. They act differently. You can see them in a minute. You're all leaders. So just go look for the people who work like you, think like you, believe like you. And leaders then will create an area for you. Everywhere I went, I always look for the leaders. But you have to keep going back. If it's that when I was driving 2 hours north, it was every week. It wasn't every other week. It was every week. If I could get one excited person in that room, I went for that meeting. And anytime I did a meeting that was like under 5 people, it was always called an executive meeting. Oh, I'm so glad we're small tonight. Get over here, or are we going to talk about this business? You always make it a positive, as you know. But I think sometimes you're all very successful directors. I see your bar pens. And maybe you've gotten yourself into a habit of only playing to a full house. You know, if you use your strength too much, it becomes your weakness. And that might be your weakness. You might think when you're going out that nobody showed up. Well, did the leader come? Was the leader there? Because through her, it's going to happen. Through her, it's going to happen. Mary Kay taught us, work with what you have. And it will keep leading you to the next person, and the next person, and the next person, and the next person. I have traveled so many places just for the 1 or 2 people, but then you start doing massive action with them. They already have their perfect start. And then you start creating it again. The only thing I ever think about as a director, the only thing I ever thought about when I woke up was who is my next personal team member and who's my next DIQ. I didn't think about anything else. As a national, I wake up, Who's my next first-line director? Who's my next Offspring National? You have to have laser beam focus where you are. You can reach so many people, but you have to go out there. You have to know your strategy. What does your picture look like? What are your numbers? I know how many executives I want to have. I know how many DIQs I want to have in the system all the time. I have certain levels that are non-negotiable. And if you're sitting here and you're kind of feeling like you lost your focus, it might be because you're still working the unit production game. You got to shift. You're not going to lose unit production. You got to shift. How many new people are coming into the unit? How many reds do you have? Are you having trouble finding those 5 key people? That speaks volumes. And if you're not willing to step out, then you probably should stay where you are.